If you have ever pressed the design that came out dull, blurry, or just not what you expected, don't worry, you're not alone. In this video, we're breaking down the sublimation equation, the four key elements that determine whether your project turns out perfect or ends up a learning pile. Once you understand these four basics, design quality, temperature, time, and pressure, everything about sublimation starts to make sense. Before we get started, I want to give you a quick overview of what this series is all about. The complete guide to sublimation goes hand in hand with my book, The Sublimation Playbook. It's designed to bring each chapter to life through step-by-step videos and real examples. So if you want to follow along or dig a little deeper, everything we cover today is linked in the description below. And just a quick note, for those of you who originally found me on TikTok, please know that while my old account is still active, I no longer have access to it. It's been hacked twice, so if you see it, please do me a favor and report it. From here on out, I will only be active on YouTube and Pinterest, so make sure you're following along. Alright, let's jump in and get started. So when I first started sublimation, I wasted so much time and money trying to figure out what exactly went wrong. One design would come out perfect and the next would come out completely different, and I could not understand why. Over time, I realized it all came down to four simple elements working together: your design quality, temperature, time, and pressure. Once I started balancing those, everything finally clicked for me. That's why I call this the sublimation equation, the foundation behind every perfect press. So when it comes to sublimation, you cannot build on shaky ground. If your foundation isn't solid, then everything else will start to fall apart. So here's where it all comes together. This is what I like to call the perfect press formula. Each part of the sublimation process is going to rely on the one before it. It starts with your design quality, because if your design isn't clear, nothing that follows can save that. Next is temperature. The right heat activates your ink so it bonds properly. Then comes time, giving the ink enough space to fully transfer into your surface. And finally, pressure. That's what locks everything in and gives your design that clean, professional finish. Each element works hand in hand, and in just a moment we'll take a closer look at each one. Design quality is where it all starts. I've seen so many people blame their press or even their ink when the real issue was the file itself. If your design isn't sharp, nothing you do from that point is going to fix it. So let's talk about how to set yourself up for success before you ever hit that print button. Your design is what drives the whole process. You can have the best printer, the most expensive press, and the perfect settings, but if the design file itself isn't set up correctly, the results are just never going to look professional. So think of it like cooking. The heat and tools matter, but the ingredients, in this case your design, it's going to decide how it tastes in the end. A good file starts with high resolution, 300 dpi or higher. That means your image has enough tiny little dots of color to stay clear and vibrant after pressing. Anything lower will look dull or fuzzy, no matter how well you press it. Next, always use the original file when possible. Avoid screenshots or copies of copies. Those lose sharpness every time they are saved or resized. Bleed setup is another key detail. Adding that little extra margin, about 1/8 of an inch or so, makes sure that your designs cover edge to edge without leaving white borders. So important for things like tumblers. And finally, go for a transparent background when you can. That way you won't end up with unwanted white boxes or outlines showing up after your project is finished. It's the combination of these small things that make your work look clean, professional, and truly press ready. When you're searching for or creating designs, here are a few quick ways to tell if a file is going to be worth your time. Look for anything marked 300 dpi, print ready, or high resolution. Those are safe bets. Stick with PNG or SVG formats as they hold their quality and allow transparency. Zoom in on the image. If the edges are crisp and the color holds up, you're good. But if you see graininess, pixelation, or a hazy blur before you even print, it's only going to get worse once the heat hits it. Avoid anything that says web use only, has visual watermarks, or has been stretched or distorted. Once you start paying attention to file quality, you'll see a huge difference in your finished results. It's one of those subtle upgrades that instantly levels up your work. If you're wondering where I actually find my designs, well, let's talk about a couple of my go-to places. First up is Creative Fabrica. It's hands down one of my favorite platforms for high quality commercial use designs. They have thousands of ready to print graphics, fonts, and templates specifically for crafters and small business owners. What I love most is that you can search by niche, like seasonal, small business, or even trendy themes, and you'll find files that are already set to 300 DPI and print ready. Plus, everything's under one license, so you never have to stress about using the designs in your shop. I also use Etsy when I'm looking for unique, handmade style designs that feel a bit more personalized. There are so many talented creators on there offering PNGs and SVGs that you just won't find anywhere else. The key is to always check the listing details. Make sure it says print ready or 300 DPI, and don't be afraid to message the seller if you're unsure. And the link to all resources that I mentioned in this video, including these, are listed in the description below so you can check them out later. Next up, let's talk about temperature, one of the most important but misunderstood parts of sublimation. This is where the magic happens, where ink turns into gas, bonds to your blank, and brings your design to life. Temperature is what makes sublimation possible. When heat is applied, it activates the sublimation ink and turns it from solid into a gas. The gas then bonds permanently with the coating or fabric that you're pressing onto. But here's the thing. If your heat isn't accurate or consistent, your results won't be either. Too low, and the ink doesn't fully convert. Your colors look dull, faded, or even patchy. Too high, and you'll scorch your blank or distort your colors. Most sublimation projects press between 380 and 400 degrees Fahrenheit, but the exact sweet spot depends on your material. That's why having a press that actually reaches and holds the target temperature is so important. Some cheaper presses can show one reading on the screen, but actually run cooler or hotter in reality. So if your results look inconsistent, please don't panic. It's often a temperature issue, not your technique. There are two really common mistakes that I see all of the time when it comes to heat. Those are scorching and ghosting. Scorching happens when your temperature is too high or your pressing time is too long. It'll leave brownish edges or that burned look around your design. And then once that happens, it's permanent. Then there's ghosting, when the design shifts before or even during the press. That movement creates a faint shadow or a double image, and it is super frustrating because it usually happens right at the end when it seems like everything else went perfect. Both of these mistakes are avoidable once you start to understand your press. So always do test prints when you're using a new blank or even trying a new press. Here's a quick overview of common sublimation ranges for popular sublimation blanks. Things like polyester shirts, mugs, tumblers, coasters, and even mouse pads. Most fall between 380 and 400 degrees Fahrenheit, but the time you hold that temperature matters just as much as the heat itself. I've put together a free PDF guide with time and temperature charts for different materials. You can download it using the link in the description below. It's a great reference when you're setting up new projects or even testing new blanks. Next, let's talk about something that is just as important as temperature: time. Because in sublimation, the right heat means absolutely nothing if it's not applied with the right amount of time. Timing determines how fully your ink bonds to the surface. If you press too long, you can dull or burn your colors. Too short, and your designs will look faded or incomplete. It's all about finding that perfect balance between heat and time. That's what gives you consistent professional results. Overpressing can cause your ink to overbake, making the design look muted or leaving that brownish haze around the edges. Underpressing, on the other hand, means your ink hasn't fully turned into gas yet, so your design ends up being weak, patchy, or missing depth. That's why having a press with a built-in timer or one you can manually control is a game changer. You should always know exactly how long your press has been closed, and never just guess. Oh, and a golden rule: never walk away from your press while it's running. One distraction can cost you your entire project. Here's a quick reference for some of the most common sublimation blanks. Polyester shirts usually press between 380 and 385 degrees for about 45 to 60 seconds. Ceramic mugs and coasters typically need more time, around 400 degrees for up to 3 minutes, since they hold and release heat a little bit differently. Tumblers take about 60 to 90 seconds, And items like mouse pads and aluminum panels are a little quicker, usually 40 to 60 seconds, depending on the thickness. All right, we are almost there. The last thing to talk about is pressure, because even if your temperature and time are perfect, your results can still fail if the pressure is off. This is the part that is truly going to seal the design, quite literally. Pressure is what makes that final bond between your print and your blank. When your pressure is even and balanced, your ink transfers cleanly and evenly, creating a full, vibrant image. But if it's too light, you'll see faded spots or areas that didn't fully transfer. And then if it's too heavy, you might crush your blank, blur your image, or even cause ghosting where your paper shifts under the pressure. It's also important that your press covers the entire design evenly. If your heat press is too small or has uneven pressure zones, some areas might not sublimate fully. That's where you'll see patchiness or dull-colored areas. A reliable, well-built press really does make a difference here. Cheap or wore-down presses often create cold or uneven spots, which cause inconsistent results. So if you're seeing unpredictable outcomes, even when your time and temperature are right, pressure might be the hidden issue here. When you're shopping for a press or troubleshooting the one you already have, here's what to keep in mind. Look for a press that distributes pressure evenly across the entire surface. You want adjustable pressure settings because every material and blank is going to be different. A shirt does not need the same amount of force as a ceramic tile. Also, make sure your press has accurate heat and time controls that stay consistent during pressing. Presses made with quality materials and solid builds hold their calibration longer and deliver consistent results. What you want to avoid are lightweight, cheap presses that can't maintain pressure evenly. They often have hot and cold zones, which can cause ghosting, faded edges, or inconsistent coverage. And if your press is too small, it limits your design area and cause underpressed edges or misalignment. So in short, good pressure is the final key to turning a good design into a professional one. So overall, think of sublimation like building with Legos. Your results are only as strong as the foundation you start with. If one piece is off, the whole structure eventually falls apart. That's why these 4 pillars matter. Each one builds on the other. And when they all align, your projects come out clean, consistent, and professional every single time. So that's it. The sublimation equation. Everything we create starts right here. This video is just the foundation of our full sublimation education series, where I'll walk you through step by step everything you need to know, from materials and equipment to pressing your first project like a pro. Make sure you hit subscribe so you're notified when the next video, Sublimation Essentials Getting Started, drops. And as always, if you learned something today, please let me know in the comments. What part clicked for you? Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Have fun creating.